desperate band of nuclear survivors stumble upon shelter where they seek protection from deadly radioactive rain.
But the stuff is upstairs, bro, from the radiation. I mean, we got it made here.
But their dreams of safety turn into a nightmare of horror when they are confronted by the Creepozoids. Creepozoids. Even if you kill them, they're still deadly. Creepozoids.
Carl and Lou here from Brrraaains Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, with a review of the movie Creepozoids, the 1987 American science fiction horror film. The first 35mm film directed by David Duchovny and starring Linnea Quigley, Ken Abram, Michael Andrew, Richard S. Hawkins and Kim McCamey, later known as Ashlyn Gear. Remade in 1997 as Hybrid. Now, I will say, I don't know. I haven't seen that remake.
No.
It's definitely something I want to check out because I quite like Creepozoids. It is the perfect encapsulation of a time. Purely 80s, ripping off things like Alien. Very silly at times. Shockingly, like, whoa, that was gory. Didn't see that coming. Its problems simply come down to the end. The latter part of the movie, which is just absurdly boring nonsense and dragged out.
We find that a lot with films, don't we? Like, just scenes of just dragging, like get everyone hyped up for something, show us what you're dealing with, and then just have walking through places trying to do stuff. Yeah, I didn't.
The ending in this movie has one surviving character playing cat and mouse with a smaller alien creature for ages, and then it seems like we've got there, and then it carries on again and does the same sequence almost twice, and you're like, oh my fucking Christ, what is going on? So the cast, we have Linnea Quigley as Bianca, Ken Abram as Butch, Michael Andrea Aranda as Jesse, Richard S. Hawkins as Jake, Ashlyn Gear as Kate, and Joey Wilson as Woman. That's how she's credited. So this is a funny film because it's set in the future. 1998.
What?
1998, 6 years after an apparent apocalyptic nuclear war. A group of 5 US Army deserters basically are making their way through downtown somewhere.
Yeah.
That's supposed to look like a dystopian end of apocalyptic world. Just looks like
they just picked
LA.
They just picked a shitty part of downtown.
With an industrial estate.
Yeah.
That's all it is, with empty buildings and stuff like that.
Graffiti and broken fences.
Yeah. It's you're not buying into this apocalyptic world. You're not at all.
They don't show you much of it either, do they?
No, they tend to get the camera focused on them as they move their way through this area. It's really just a chance for a bit of banter between the group, say some names, stuff like that. There's nothing special going on here. It's all to lead to where they find an abandoned laboratory complex in the ruins amongst this. They're forced to take shelter as rain comes. So part of this apocalyptic nuclear war has caused acid rain to fall. Yes, Return of the Living Dead fans, I did laugh as well and smile when Linnea Quigley acknowledges acid rain. Obviously the link was there, because it was only 2 years before.
Yeah, they did.
They did this, And obviously I'm a Linnea Quigley mark, so the fact that she's in this, I'm very happy about. And of course, don't worry, guys, you get what you get what you know you want with Linnea. Of course you bloody do. See, inside this laboratory, they look around, find it pretty much, it's empty. It's empty, but it looks like it was abandoned quite recently. And aspects like that. Now, we actually did see this lab at the start of the movie. We see some scientists working on it, and it appears they create some sort of creature because you hear some noises and stuff like that. That's about it. There's a lot of nothing really happening, but it is character stuff more than anything else. They're trying to work out where they are, what it is. They're looking on computers, trying to break codes, stuff like that.
And this is a whole discussion of like, do we stay here for a while? We've got comfort, so they've got hot water, a bit of food. Do we stay here for a while, or do we move on? There's like a bit of back and forth about, because would be that kind of case of, if you found somewhere safe, would you risk it to kind of be exposed again, or would you stay here and make a plan? And yeah.
Agreed, absolutely. And we do get the impression of being watched and stuff like that. There's all these sort of vents and things like that, particularly one at the feet by the computer. That's where one of our characters end up going through. He then runs into a monster. It's a quick flash as it sees its sort of face gets up to his face. The next morning, he's woken up and he seems fine. Because where you're like, oh, he's probably dead, but he seems fine. He gets out of bed and we get like a very alien rip-off as he eats some food at the table and then goes through some pretty violent transformation. It's quite gory. It also uses like green effects and stuff like that. And he just outright dies because you're waiting for like a chest bursting thing and all that. It's not quite that. But it follows the same trope. The group is sitting around the table. He starts to cough and then has his reaction. It's very like, you're ripping off Alien there, aren't you?
So now they start looking into because they were like, oh, if he ate the food, we're all going to go for the same thing. So start looking at the protein breakdown, don't they? And things like that of like what's in the food. And,
it gets weirdly complex, right?
Yeah, they're like, oh, if he's eating this food and turns into it, I can't even explain what I mean. Like,
it's very, very weirdly complicated for no good reason. Because they become obsessed about like protein and looking into this and going, oh, this is what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
And what about they check the blood and they're like, okay, what about this food and all that? There's a lot of lab shit where you're like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why can't we just have Monster?
Monsters. Yeah.
This is this film's biggest problem. It's got 20 minutes worth of content, and they're like, how do we pad this?
Yeah.
And they pad it. Here's the thing though, it's not unenjoyable because the cast, being small in a localised area, you kind of get to know everyone, Everyone's got friendly banter.
Very well, two of them are very friendly, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you get nakedness in the shower with Linnea and, well, of course, with Bianca and Butch, Linnea Quigley and Abraham and stuff like that. It's all pretty tame stuff, nothing spectacular here. You're not seeing anything graphic or anything you haven't seen before in regards to the likes of Linnea Quigley. But basically, a lot of it is them moving through these vents that are quite big, discovering a kind of nesty area with webs and shit, and eggs. Let's not forget eggs as well, like that. And then occasionally being attacked by this monster. It's cat and mouse stuff and infection based more than anything else. But I'll be honest with you, it doesn't move at a peppy enough pace to really excite the senses. It feels again like they wanted to do Alien, but just didn't have the budget, the talent, the skill to create that level of tension surrounding it, Yeah,
a lot of the scenes are like one group going through and then, oh no, we've got to go back for this pub. Like you say, cat and mouse, and it's just, I wanted more from it. And again, it just feels like it's one, and because it's only one location as well, you really notice it when it slows down.
You really, really do as well. Very, very, it's not the greatest set in the world either. And then like seemingly to kind of break things up, the monotony of it all, they introduce like giant rats who start attacking the girls and things like that. And don't look great, do they?
No. They've not aged well. This is like 98. You think this would be more advanced one?
This is 87.
No, when this.
Oh, 1998. Yeah, they're clearly like struggling with like puppets and stuff like that of a fake fucking plushie, rat plushie kind of thing. Anyway, you know what happens. People are picked off, people get killed and things like that. And it basically leads to us finally seeing this monster. And again, Alien. It's big and black. Yeah. It's got a kind of leathery looking skin. It's got some slime. It's large. It's an Alien ripoff. It basically really is. It's unexciting. It looks alright, I suppose.
Yeah, for the time as well.
For the budget.
87,
For the budget, I think is the biggest thing about this. For the budget. And that's where we kind of get that really long cat and mouse sequence as well. He eventually, the last survivor, does eventually get the upper hand on it. But then we see its head birth something because it's got a really large head. Basically a xenomorph style head, unsurprisingly. And it births like a sort of humanoid / alien monster. Yeah. Which is weird. It seems to have been some sort of reverse impregnation.
Yeah.
And it's like this weird humanoid thing. And again, and this is where the movie just drags its arse so much that it's almost boring talking about it. It's just like in this big sort of stockpile storeroom area as he slowly moves around and the creature's hiding here and all that. And He looks like eventually he fights it, it tries to strangle him with its tail, and he kills it, and then you're like, okay, it's done. And you have the perfect end shot of the camera focus on him sitting like this, and the creature pops up on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you're expecting it to freeze.
Definitely. Very 80s, yeah.
Freeze, credits roll.
Yeah.
Doesn't. He knocks it off, and we repeat the same fucking cycle.
Yeah.
We repeat the same
really drag
cycle till eventually he does win and get the upper hand. And you're like, and then it ends. And then it just ends abruptly. And you're like, oh my God, what was it? You were like, okay, the movie's only 60 minutes long. We need 70. Let's just, and we're not talking like 2-minute sequences. We're talking nearly 10 minutes of dragging your feet. And you're like, oh, you really didn't have much in this film at all. You were like, all right, let's rip off Alien. And yeah, looking at the time, Aliens, yeah, why not? And let's change these things here. But then they didn't have enough ideas, the money to create elaborate set pieces. You know, a lot of the effects do look really fake. They find some bodies of skeletons, like gooey skeletons. They look shit. The rats look shit. We don't have a strong cast to kind of be able to hold screen time together.
Definitely not.
Talking perhaps about just general things of their lives and keep us invested. Because, I mean, as much as I love the likes of Linnea Quigley and stuff like that, I know her role in movies. I know what's important. I'm not expecting to sit there and go, man, a 5-minute Linnea Quigley monologue. How awesome. That's on par with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, you know?
You're saying, like, when you go through, like, classic horror films as well, the fact that, like, I wouldn't... You know, like, a lot of these films are like, oh, I know this one. This is a classic. This is a classic. This is 80s classic. I've not heard this one before. I don't know. I kind of called it a classic. I wouldn't watch it again, to be honest.
Yep.
So that's how I kind of look at these films. Of they stick in your memory. The whole idea's been done many times before, just better.
Yeah, I put movies like this alongside the likes of Sorority Sisters or Sorority Girls, Sorority Sisters, Sorority Girls in the Slime Bowl or Armour. That one. Those sort of movies where it's clearly so 80s. It's fun to watch because of that, because you're like, oh my God, this is 1987. They're pretending the future is 1998, which is already at the time of recording 23 years ago.
Yeah.
Their future is 23 years ago, you know, which alone is hilarious. It's a shame they didn't have the budget to push that idea out there more, because they're like, oh yeah, we're sitting down to advanced computers, and it's like, that computer is ancient, you know? Its problems lie simply by the fact that we have this very small story idea and then we've got to build around that, and we just don't have the ability to. It's why we get bogged down with talking about proteins and enzymes and and it's all nonsense words as well. It's nonsense words. It's like listen to a hacker talk bollocks about hacking it. Oh yeah, I'm going to go through this, you know, I'm going to do that and all. It's like, that means nothing to us. It means nothing, and it means nothing to you. Why are you a scientist? How are you able to do this? What I'm surprised they didn't develop, and what could have helped extend the time without going is they do briefly talk about the fact that they're deserters, that they have left the army, and they talk about when they're talking about going out into the rain, they talk about, oh, do you want to go back to the front line? You're like, front, there's a war going on?
Yeah, explain that a bit more.
Yeah, let's develop that. Let's develop that.
Budget, innit?
Yeah.
Can't have anything like that.
I mean, you haven't got to flash back and go, you know, we don't need Terminator 2 here.
No.
A war machines. But what do you mean? Like, you deserted? Why as a group? What's your connection? You just, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that, perhaps, comes back to that, perhaps with a stronger cast. Yeah. And I don't think anyone's terrible in this.
No, just, if you're doing that sort of close quarters, you need stronger elements.
You do. And what's annoying about that is then you're like, well, okay, that's not important. What is important is the monsters. And that ultimately isn't really hitting. No. The best moments are when the dinner table scene, the transformation, and that happens to someone else later on as well, because that looks quite good. The sort of bubbly skin and the liquid dripping out of the mouth. Yeah. That aspect was cool, but that's just a brief shot, a very brief moment, and then we get bogged down by what was wrong with him. Let's look into it. Don't eat the food. Don't do this. Was it in the water? Or that aspect. Or vent crawling shit. Let's crawl through the vents. Oh look, there's black oil here, and we'll follow that. We arrive at this nesty area, and you're like, okay, maybe this is where shit's going to come down. And you do see the monster there, but often it's just a flash, almost like it pops in the screen and then you cut again. And I get it. It all comes down to what we keep saying: budget limitations, which will inevitably harm it. Yeah, definitely. It is not a bad movie though. It is, again, I think, sits squarely in the middle, neither bad nor good. just one of those snapshots of where you're like, God, this is 80s.
Yeah, definitely. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That alone makes it, particularly if you enjoy 80s horror and you're trying to work your way through them, that alone makes it a must-watch, I think. Yeah. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?